Every winter, the average UK home pumps hundreds of pounds worth of heat straight up through the roof. Not through the walls, not through the windows, through the roof, while the heating runs flat out trying to keep up. Here's the part that annoys me. Most people think the fix means a full insulation company visit, scaffolding, and a bill that runs into 4 figures. It doesn't. There's a simple, budget-friendly trick that tackles the exact spot where most of that heat escapes, and it costs a fraction of what you'd expect. It's not a secret formula. It's not some miracle product. It's basic physics, applied properly, in the one place almost everyone overlooks. And once you see where the heat is actually going, you won't be able to unsee it in your own house. Before they ban this, and I say that only half jokingly because cheap, effective fixes like this one tend to get quietly phased out in favor of pricier, professional solutions, let's get into exactly what's happening up in your loft, why it's costing you money right now, and how to stop it this weekend. Heat rises. That's not new information. But most people don't think through what that actually means for their house. Warm air inside your home naturally drifts upward. It reaches your ceiling, and if there's a poorly insulated loft above that ceiling, the warm air keeps going, straight through the ceiling void into the loft space and out through the roof tiles into the cold night air. Your boiler fires up again to replace that lost heat. And the cycle repeats all winter long, every single day. The Energy Saving Trust has long pointed to loft insulation as one of the most cost-effective upgrades a UK home can make, precisely because so much heat is lost through an under-insulated roof space. If your loft insulation is old, thin, patchy, or compressed flat by years of storage boxes sitting on top of it, you are heating your attic, and, indirectly, the sky above it, far more than you're heating your living room. A few reasons. First, most homeowners never actually go up into the loft to check. It's dark, it's dusty, and it's easy to assume it's probably fine without ever laying eyes on the insulation itself. Second, when people do think about insulation, they picture a full professional install. Someone in a van, rolls of mineral wool, a bill north of $500 to $1,000, depending on the size of the loft. That price tag puts people off entirely, so the job never gets done. Third, and this is the bit that really gets me, a lot of loft heat loss isn't actually about the big flat area of insulation between the joists at all. It's about the gaps, the loft hatch that doesn't seal properly, the pipes and cables poking up through the ceiling with a gap around them, the eaves where insulation has been pushed back to let the roof breathe, leaving a cold, uninsulated strip right around the edge of the loft. These gaps act like chimneys for warm air, and they're often ignored completely because they're small, unglamorous, and don't look like proper insulation work. That's exactly where this budget-friendly trick comes in. Because you don't need to re-insulate your entire loft to make a real dent in your heating bill. You need to target the specific weak points that are doing most of the damage. And that's a job you can genuinely do yourself in an afternoon for well under £50. Here's what insulation companies will never tell you outright, because it doesn't sell a big job. Most of the heat loss drama in a loft isn't spread evenly. It's concentrated in a handful of specific weak points, and once you know what they are, you can fix the worst offenders yourself, cheaply, without touching the main body of insulation at all. Weak point 1, the loft hatch. Think about it. Every other part of your ceiling has, hopefully, several inches of insulation sitting above it. The hatch is usually a thin sheet of plywood or MDF, often with no insulation on top and no draft seal around the edges. It's effectively a hole in your thermal envelope that you open and close by hand. Cold air can seep in around the edges, and warm air escapes the same way, 24 hours a day. Weak point 2, penetrations. That's the boring name for every pipe, cable, and vent that pokes up through your ceiling into the loft. Around each one, there's typically a small gap, sometimes barely noticeable, sometimes wide enough to fit a finger through. Multiply that by every penetration in an average loft, and you've got the equivalent of leaving a window cracked open all winter. Weak point 3, the eaves. This is the point where your loft insulation meets the outer walls, right at the edge of the roof. A lot of insulation gets pulled back here, either by whoever fitted it originally or by ventilation requirements, to stop moisture building up in the roof timbers. The problem is that this creates a cold ring right around the perimeter of your loft, directly above the coldest, draftiest part of your house, the point where your walls meet your roof. Weak point 4, compressed or thin existing insulation. Mineral wool and fiberglass insulation work by trapping air. Trapped air is a poor conductor of heat, which is exactly what you want. But if that insulation has been squashed flat by decades of storage boxes, or if it was only ever installed to the old building regs thickness of 100 millimeters rather than today's recommended 270 milliliters, it's simply not doing its job properly. It's still there. It's just not thick enough to matter. Here's the truth about why professional companies rarely lead with these fixes. Sealing a hatch, draft-proofing penetrations, and topping up thin insulation isn't a big enough job to justify sending out a team and charging a large fee. It's not that these fixes don't work. They absolutely do. It's that they're not commercially attractive compared to a full loft insulation install. So the advice that actually saves you the most money for the least outlay tends to get quietly skipped over in favor of the bigger sell. That's not a conspiracy, it's just how the incentives line up. But it means the responsibility falls on you to know what actually moves the needle. And now you do. Right, let's get practical. Here's exactly how to tackle this yourself in order of impact for the money. Step 1, inspect before you buy anything. Grab a torch, put on old clothes, and get up into the loft on a dry day. Look at the depth of your existing insulation. Building regulations in England and Wales currently recommend 270 milliliters of mineral wool insulation, or the equivalent in other materials. If you can see the tops of your joists clearly, or the insulation looks patchy and compressed, you're losing heat unnecessarily. While you're up there, run your hand around the loft hatch, around any pipes coming through the ceiling, and around the eaves, feeling for drafts. Step 2, seal the loft hatch. This is the cheapest, highest impact fix on the list. You want a simple foam or rubber draft excluder strip? The same kind used around doors, applied around the frame of the hatch opening so it creates a seal when the hatch is closed. If your hatch doesn't have a way to hold itself firmly shut, adding a simple turn button or bolt closure helps keep that seal tight. For extra effect, you can stick a piece of rigid insulation board to the top of the hatch itself, cut to size, so the hatch has some thermal resistance rather than being a bare sheet of wood. Total cost, typically under a tenner. Step 3, seal around penetrations. For pipes and cables coming up through the ceiling, use expanding foam sealant, or for larger gaps, offcuts of mineral wool packed in firmly around the opening. Wear gloves and a mask when using expanding foam. It's messy stuff, and you don't want it on your skin or in your lungs. Work slowly. A little foam expands a lot, so less is genuinely more here. This step alone often costs less than the price of a coffee. Step 4. Address the eaves. This one needs a bit more care because you don't want to block the ventilation gap that lets the roof timbers breathe. Trapping moisture up there causes rot, which is a far bigger problem than a bit of heat loss. What you're after are eaves ventilation baffles, sometimes called loft vents or rafter vents, rather than leaving a wide gap. They're inexpensive, sold in packs, and are one of the most overlooked upgrades in a typical DIY insulation job. Step 5. Top up thin insulation. If your existing insulation is below that 270 milliliter mark, the budget move is to buy rolls of mineral wool insulation and lay a second layer directly on top of the first, running in the opposite direction to the joists below. Laying it crosswise like this covers the joists themselves, which are otherwise a weak point since timber conducts heat far more readily than the insulation either side of it. Always wear gloves, a mask, and long sleeves when handling mineral wool. The fibers are irritating to skin and lungs, and eye protection is worth having too. A few professional tricks worth knowing. Don't compress the insulation to make it fit. Thickness is what gives it its insulating power, and squashing it flat undoes most of the benefit. Don't insulate directly under any loft-mounted water tanks without checking guidance first, since a small amount of warmth reaching the tank can actually help prevent it freezing in a hard winter. And never cover downlighter fittings or electrical connections directly with insulation unless they're rated for it, as this can be a fire risk. A small insulation-free gap or cover cap around these fittings is standard practice. A common mistake people make is stopping at step 5 and skipping steps 2 to 4 entirely because bulk insulation feels like the real job and draft sealing feels minor. Well, in reality, an undersealed hatch and gappy eaves can undo a meaningful chunk of what a full re-insulation achieves. Do the sealing work first? It's cheaper, faster, and pound for pound, it often delivers the biggest single improvement in comfort. If you're topping up insulation, buy it in the thickness that gets you to 270 milliliter total, not 270 on its own. Check what's already there first, so you're not overspending on a thicker roll than you actually need. Choose mineral wool for a straightforward loft top-up. It's inexpensive, widely available, and easy for a DIYer to handle. Rigid insulation boards are better suited to loft hatches and boarded loft floors where you want to walk on top of the insulation, since mineral wool alone can't take foot traffic without being compressed. If your loft is used for storage, consider raising a small section of boarding on timber battens above the insulation, rather than laying boards flat and squashing everything underneath. It's a bit more effort, but it means your storage space doesn't come at the cost of your insulation's performance. Indoors, keep an eye on your loft hatch draft seal every year or two, since foam strips do compress and wear over time. A 5-minute check each autumn before the cold sets in keeps that seal doing its job. And a word of caution, none of this is a substitute for checking your roof itself is in good condition. Insulation manages heat, not water. If you've got a leak, that needs sorting on its own terms before you go layering insulation into a damp loft space. Picture the loft before. Insulation flattened under years of forgotten boxes. A bare plywood hatch with a visible gap around the edge. You can feel a draft through with your bare hand. Pipes poking through the ceiling with dark gaps around them, and a cold ring running right around the eaves where the insulation just stops short. Now picture it after an afternoon's work. The hatch sits flush, sealed, with a strip of rigid board fixed to the top. Every pipe and cable has a neat collar of foam or packed wool around it. Eaves vents hold the insulation clear of the roof edge while letting the loft breathe, and a fresh, even layer of mineral wool runs crosswise over the joists, right up to that edge, at a full 270 meters depth. The physical difference is obvious to the eye. The difference you feel is in the rooms below. Fewer cold spots near the ceiling, a heating system that doesn't have to work quite so hard to hold its temperature, and a loft that's finally doing the one job it was always meant to do. None of this required scaffolding. None of it required a tradesman. None of it required spending anywhere near what most people assume a proper insulation job costs. It required a torch, an afternoon, some gloves, and knowing which 4 weak points actually matter. That's the part that genuinely bothers me about how this trade often gets presented to homeowners. The small, cheap fixes that make the biggest difference rarely get the spotlight because they don't come with a big invoice attached. Before they ban this kind of straightforward, budget-friendly advice in favor of always pointing people toward the expensive option. Get up into your loft and see for yourself where the heat is actually going. You don't need anyone's permission to fix your own roof properly. You just needed to know where to look. If you'd rather see the walls come down before the roof goes back up, stick around, because next week we're tackling the drafts hiding behind your skirting boards and why they're costing you just as much as that loft ever did.